Hello everyone, and welcome back to my personal channel. Today, I'm talking about my very first copyright strike. I recently released a video, Founder, Finder, and Fred, discussing a documentary from Founder Films that chronicles the story of Fred Schebesta, an Australian technology and cryptocurrency entrepreneur. And I criticized the documentary in a way that I feel was fair use and transformative, pointing out their abject failure to address Fred's many abject failures. You see, Fred Schebesta sold his businesses to Sam Bankman-Fried to bank FTX, and then used other ones of his businesses to offer allegedly illegal products. None of that was mentioned in the documentary. In response to this copyright strike, I could of course file a counter notice and dare Founder Films in Australia to sue me, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to state very plainly, Founder Films is bad at making accurate documentaries. What they create are stories meant purely to promote these figures, not to accurately tell their stories. The video that I previously created will stay down, but what you are about to watch is a supercut of just my criticisms from that video. You will watch as I become increasingly unhinged and upset at how bad Founder Films is at their job. And unfortunately, you were robbed of some vital context that really emphasizes how bad they are. But I hope, nonetheless, all of you who still choose to come here and watch this video can enjoy me yelling at these Australians who are really bad at making documentaries. Without further ado, a supercut of just my criticisms from the video Founder Films got taken down. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my personal channel. Unfortunately, today we are once again talking about Fred Schebesta, the self-styled cryptocurrency king of Australia. For those who haven't kept up with my series of videos on Fred over on Crypto Critics Corner, let's talk a little bit about why Fred is important. Fred Schebesta and Frank Restuccia started a cryptocurrency over-the-counter trading desk called HiveEx. This desk was not very important, very large, or really something we need to know about until Fred Schebesta decided that he wanted it to be more than a simple cryptocurrency trading desk. In order to achieve this ambitious dream, Fred Schebesta went out and purchased a minority stake in Goldfields Money, a local Australian bank, and after that, HiveEx started advertising its ability to get other cryptocurrency companies banked. After this, Fred Schebesta ended up selling HiveEx to Alameda Research for 300,000 Australian dollars. At the time, that was about 200,000 American dollars. Alameda Research and Sam Bankman-Fried immediately set about using this entity to bank FTX. Even more important, FTX's bankruptcy listed Goldfields Money as one of the banks that served as a counterparty for FTX. So, the reason Fred Schebesta is important is because he sold his cryptocurrency over-the-counter trading desk to Sam Bankman-Fried, so Sam Bankman-Fried could use that desk to bank FTX, a criminal enterprise. Besides that, Fred Schebesta is also the founder of Finder. Finder is a product that compares different financial products, credit card rewards, fees, bank accounts, things like that. But they also had a separate product called Finder Earn. Shortly before Australian security regulators sued them for their Finder Earn product, claiming it was illegal and not licensed appropriately, Fred Schebesta stepped down as CEO of Finder. So to summarize, Fred Schebesta sold his cryptocurrency trading desk. He is currently renting out his crypto castle we watched the tour of over on Crypto Critics Corner. He stepped down as CEO of Finder, and the Finder Earn cryptocurrency product offered by Finder is being sued by Australian regulators. So, why are we talking about Fred today? Well, because there's a new docu-series, of course, called Founder. Founder, the documentary series, purports to show how different Australian entrepreneurs have founded these lasting businesses and tells their story. In episode 3, Founder talks about our friend Fred Schebesta and his business Finder. We're going to highlight a few of the things they get right, a few of the things they get wrong, and a few of the things they seem to not discuss at all. So without further ado, Founder, about Fred, and Finder. Change the rules feels like it matters when you're being sued for not following the rules, but hey, also, I'm like 95% certain that where he's looking out from right there is from his crypto castle. It has this part where it looks out onto the bay outside the Sydney Harbor. And there's one point even in one of his TikToks, which I also did a review of over on Crypto Critics Corner, where he decides to hit golf balls into the harbor, which I feel like can't be a good thing, but he claims they're biodegradable, so I'm pretty sure that cash position screenshot they're showing is from back when Finder Earn was a thing, and I think Finder now doesn't include that kind of visual in their app. I think the documentarians here are showing features which regulators have forced Finder to remove from their application in this screen grab. See, down there where it says cash, I think that first little bit of an orange there is the Bitcoin logo. Not positive, but I think that's features they've had to remove from their application. Like they've removed all their crypto trading, the crypto lending, all of it. So Finder Wallet was the cryptocurrency part. Finder.com is the website. Finder Group of Companies is the Finder Group. Finder US Finder app, and then Finder Earn was the lending part we were talking about before, and they even have it as a senior demand note offering, but they were trying to claim that it wasn't a debenture in their argument to the Australian securities regulators. This document right here that they're showing in this documentary might be evidence in an active securities lawsuit against Finder, and it's just casually displayed here. They're literally describing it as a senior demand note offering for their Finder Earn product. This is a wild thing to include in this documentary with no context about the current lawsuit. They were shitty SEO hackers, and they actually described the shitty SEO hacking coming up, and we'll talk about how that worked and why it eventually failed. So, I guess it doesn't surprise me that much that Fred Schebesta is not an actuary. You know what, considering the rest of his career, the lawsuits, Finder Earn, the fee-free trading, the partnership with Alameda Research, the work that I think for Finder Earn and the fee-free trading with Binance, you know what, not being an actuary fits with that. Well, yeah, but you've had years since then, Fred, where you could have learned to cook a second meal. There's directions that tell you specifically how to make almost any food you want, detailed instructions online that you can very easily get access to. And so a second meal would have been a worthwhile thing to learn, probably. So Google's algorithm at this time, I believe, was still PageRank, and it was one of the more rudimentary versions of it. And so what PageRank looked at when it was trying to figure out how good your site was who linked to your site. So if you had a lot of really good, high-quality, high-traffic websites linking to you, that meant your site was likely good and was going to be ranked higher. This effect was compounded for certain terms. So if all these high-quality websites were linking back to your website and they were all using the same kind of terms, credit cards, finance, fees, whatever, your Google is going to start thinking that your website specifically must be really high quality on those terms. Fred, in just a moment here, is going to explain what steps he took to get links from high-quality organizations with terms that he wanted. And I want you to decide whether or not this was duplicitous in any way. There we go. So that's how he got these links. He would target the student unions, probably because he thought they might be student-led, and therefore have a different process than the rest of the universities, but they would still be hosted on generally the same core domain, the same core infrastructure, and so to Google would look like those institutions themselves linking back to Finder. And not just linking back to Finder, but linking back to Finder, often on their front page, with terms about credit cards, which you would expect would make Finder start to rank well for credit cards, unless, of course, Google were to catch on that they were doing something like this to, in effect, manipulate the result. There's still some people who try to do this. It doesn't really work. And be very cautious in terms of who you hire, who you trust for SEO now, because there's a lot of cranks who are using outdated techniques like this, which long-term will end up punishing your website, even if you briefly see the front page or something like that. So be very cautious in how you build for and optimize for SEO at this point. Yeah, Google looked at your behavior and decided, is this or is this not a good faith participant in this ecosystem? And now I, Bennett, am wondering if Google making this decision is why the domain changed from creditcardfinder.com.au to finder.com.au. Let's find out. If you broke the rules to get to the top of the mountain, isn't that a little bit like taking a helicopter 95% of the way to the peak of Everest and then going, I summited Everest, I stood on the top of that mountain, and then these damn people who care about their silly little rules said I broke the no helicopter rules in mountain climbing, and I thought I had found an innovative angle, but it turns out that's just cheating. How was I supposed to know I'm a disruptor? Oh man. Hey, I know we paid you $5,000 just to link to us, but can you stop doing that? We got in trouble. Remember, he had to step down as CEO, and his company is currently being sued by security regulators for offering an illegal product. So far, neither of those facts have been mentioned in this documentary, which was released in 2023, which is after both of those things happened. I'm increasingly frustrated with this documentary. We are talking about Fred running 6 miles a day for 5 days. Unless he's running 50 kilometers each day for the 5 days, which is much more impressive. But we're not talking about him stepping down as CEO and being sued yet. And that feels important to me. So Schebesta Ventures, you would think, would be a Fred-owned company, but it's actually owned by Finder and is the entity through which he sells his Go Live marketing course, which he spends a lot of time advertising on his TikTok. The entire corporate structure of the Finder group of companies is wild, and I will link an article in the description that tries to piece it apart, but man, it's a mess. I don't know exactly what I want to say here. I just paused it because I had a moment of listening to Fred say, my partner suggested I do this to make it easier, but I instead decided to do the opposite, even though it's harder, because I think it proves I'm a trailblazer. There's something there. There's a metaphor for something about how Fred is. I think that's Find or Earn. I think we're seeing screenshots for Find or Earn right there. And someone put in a huge amount on one day there. And that's something. He's showing some screenshots there. So they'll include him writing about Find or Earn and calling it a senior demand node or whatever he called it. They'll show him showing screenshots of Find or Earn. But are we going to hear about the lawsuit? Apparently not. One of the ways that he came up with to try to get to grow more is he went to the Australian Parliament and argued that they should insure deposits used for cryptocurrency lending in Australia. Yes, that is a literal thing he argued in front of Parliament. Yep, earn balance. There we go. It is Find or Earn. So they're talking about this goddamn product. Are they going to talk about the fact that he's getting fucking sued by regulators who claim that this is an illegal product he had no right to be offering? Is that a thing that's important? Is the fact that they got sued for this likely what contributed to him stepping away from this company? Is that going to be mentioned in this documentary about this founder? Because if it isn't, I'm going to blow my hat. There's Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin. Well, you're running 0 businesses now, Fred. You've had to leave your businesses, and sell them to criminals. Well, I guess pre-criminals. They were criminals then, but they weren't yet convicted. So maybe you didn't know about the many, many crimes they were doing. Maybe. And since then, you've resigned as CEO, and your company is being sued by Australian securities regulators. Plus, you sold your over-the-counter trading desk to Sam Bankman-Fried to bank a criminal enterprise. Feels like we're getting close to a conclusion. Are they going to mention it? To be clear, what this digital industrialist creates is SEO spam, credit card comparisons, over-the-counter cryptocurrency trades, and he rents his house. That is the sum total of his production. The famed digital industrialist Indeed. Okay, we get the after text. Are they going to talk about it here? Here we go. December 2022, Fred stepped down as CEO of Finder. Are they going to mention the lawsuit? Nope. They did that entire documentary and did not once mention that Finder Earn, which they featured heavily in that documentary, was being sued by regulators. They did not once mention HiveEx, mention HiveSpend, mention Goldfield's Money, mention Sam Bankman-Fried, mention Alameda Research, and again, this was released in 2023. Every single one of those things was known when this documentary was released. It feels insulting to me as a viewer to have you show me Fred Schebesta discussing Finder Earn and not mention that Australian regulators are suing him for Finder Earn. If that's not duplicitous, I don't know what is. If that doesn't give you additional context on who Fred is as a founder, then I don't know what does. All this really demonstrated is that you can fill 43 minutes with mostly B-roll if you really put your mind to it, and that leaving out key details makes it easier to tell a positive story. If you want, go check my other videos, which are linked in the description about Fred Schebesta, but this documentary fundamentally missed so many points as to misrepresent Fred, and that made me deeply frustrated. I, however, very much appreciate you all for joining me here as we got through this disaster.